Hey guys, BippyMan here. Today we have one of the biggest trials in New Jersey history starting. We have Gregor versus New Jersey for quite the heinous crime. So we're gonna see who actually did this. We're gonna deep dive into this. We're gonna be covering this trial every single day. I hope you guys are gonna stick with me, BippyMan, and let's hop into this trial.
Did you, your mother, and others throw several objects at that house?
My mother was not involved. It was me and two friends, and yes, we did.
And at that time you threw eggs?
Yes.
Dead goldfish?
I don't think they were goldfish. It was fish from the supermarket.
So let me understand this. You woke up on this day, you decided you were going to drive to his parents' house, but before you did that, you actually put the thought in to go to a supermarket and buy fish.
Yes.
And you drove to his house, and you threw the fish. Were they dead? Or did you get fresh fish?
It was fresh. It wasn't fresh. It was
Well,
food.
did you get it from a market that had one of those tanks?
No, it was no. It was a dead fish.
What kind of fish?
I don't remember.
Was it expensive fish?
Not really.
All right. So you got cheap fish.
Yeah.
So you got this fish, meat bones. What's a meat bone?
I don't remember that.
And goose eggs. Goose egg stones.
Oh, stones. Okay.
What is a goose egg stone?
I don't know.
Just
It sounds like a stone, but
okay, so you throw rocks. So you threw rocks, dead fish, bones, and eggs at Christopher's parents' house?
yes.
He liked the solar system. He liked to play outside. His mom describes him as silly and happy. Corey was 6 on April 2nd, 2021, when his father murdered him. His father is this defendant, Christopher Gregor. This case is about Corey and how Corey became the ultimate victim of this defendant's punishment and abuse. During the course of the trial, you're going to hear from a number of witnesses and see a lot of evidence. You'll learn that on May 1st of 2014, Corey was born to Brianna Michelow when she was just 17 years old. This defendant didn't come into Corey's life, and neither did the Gregors, until Corey was 4 or 5. Back in March of 2021, Corey's parents hadn't been together, but they shared custody. Corey lived with the defendant, and his mom had visitation. On March 20th of 2021, Corey's mom picked him up for a visit. They went to Pennsylvania, and they saw their family. They were supposed to be back at about 3 or 4 o'clock. They were in Pennsylvania, there was traffic, and they were running late. Corey's mom told the defendant that. But Brianna's lateness, you'll hear, was pissing him off. He told Brianna to drop Corey off at the apartment complex's gym and meet him there. So she did. Corey and the defendant went into the gym, and you'll see what happened next. Because that gym had a surveillance system, and you will see what this defendant did to his son inside that gym. After that day, when Corey went back to school during the week, his teacher, his first grade teacher, started to notice some bruises on Corey. She was concerned. She's going to tell you that after March 25th of 2021, Corey was never physically back in person in school ever again. During this time, Corey's mom was also concerned. She had seen bruises as well. She was so concerned that she filed an emergent application with the court to get custody. On April 1st of 2021, Corey's mom picked him up for her only visitation she had had that week, or during the week, which was 3 hours, and she brought him to a pediatrician. Corey spoke to the pediatrician. The pediatrician saw Corey's bruises. She too was concerned. So she sent Corey and his mom to a local hospital nearby. Ultimately, Corey was seen at Jersey Shore University Medical Center. And while at Jersey Shore, doctors looked at Corey's body. They checked his lungs. They checked his bones. They checked his labs. And shortly after 1 o'clock in the morning or around there, Corey was discharged. He was medically cleared for release because there was nothing wrong with Corey's lungs. There was nothing wrong with Corey's bones, and his labs were normal. Corey was fine except for his bruises. Now, Corey's mom tried to bring Corey back to the defendant. Her visitation was over, and while they were at the doctor earlier, she learned that her application for custody had been denied in that regard, but that a child abuse examination had been ordered within 7 days by a specialist. And so, in trying to keep with the visitation schedule, she contacted the defendant and tried to bring Corey back. But he didn't answer.
Now, guys, I don't want to interject too much, but I will say it is very odd to me. If your kid's being abused, the last thing you want to do is bring him back to the abuser. If you have your kid with you and you know something is seriously wrong, to where maybe your kid's scared, maybe he's just very hurt, I don't think you would want to keep up with that schedule. You wouldn't care about that schedule. But that is very odd to me. But let's keep listening and let's form our own opinion.
And so since it's after 1 o'clock in the morning, Corey's mom and Corey go back to her house in Englishtown. And the two of them get home, everyone's asleep, they go in the basement, and they go to bed. That's where her room is. Corey wakes up in the morning, he has his breakfast, his mom dresses him in clean clothes, and he's with his mom the whole time. And she drives him back to the defendant's apartment in Barnegat. Corey and his mom sat in the car in the parking lot, and they said goodbye for what would be the very last time. Corey was walking. Corey was talking. Corey was fine, except for his bruises. By 9:03 a.m., Corey was back inside the defendant's apartment. And you'll hear that the defendant wasn't happy. But he told people, Corey's okay, Corey's all right. Except by 3:48 p.m., this defendant carried Corey's nearly limp body into Southern Ocean Medical Center. He reported that Corey was sleepy and had thrown up. Corey was admitted quickly. He was brought to room 6 in the emergency department. Corey coded. He was intubated. He coded again. He lost his pulse. And by 5:03 p.m., Corey was pronounced dead. This defendant, shortly after, walked out of the hospital, got into his car, and he left. Left the hospital, and he left Corey. You're going to hear from witnesses in this case that will tell you that defendant was found in Tennessee on April 4th. Now, a forensic pathologist that reviewed Corey's autopsy and his medical records is going to testify. He's a doctor. And he will tell you that Corey was a once healthy 6-year-old boy that died from blunt force trauma. He will describe for you the contusions on Corey's body all over in different stages of healing. He will tell you that the inflammatory response throughout Corey's body was acute. He's going to describe that Corey's heart and liver were both lacerated. Now, what you won't hear is that Corey was struck with a bat, stomped on by the defendant. You're not going to hear that. Because the only people there in that apartment were the defendant and Corey. But what you will hear is that the only people that were in that apartment were the defendant and Corey. And that the serious bodily injury that Corey sustained while with the defendant, and only the defendant, were so catastrophic that they ended his life. Now, there are two charges in this case. The first, endangering the welfare of a child, and the second, murder. The state must prove both beyond a reasonable doubt. That means you're firmly convinced, and that's a burden the state embraces. That first count, endangering the welfare of a child, is for what this defendant did to Corey in the gym on May 20th, 2021. And that second count is for what this defendant did to Corey on April 2nd, 2021. That's the murder. In order to prove a murder, the state has to demonstrate that a defendant acted purposely or knowingly. But rarely is there a person that can come into court and tell you what someone was thinking when they engaged in a particular act. So how do we prove that to you? We have to look at all the things the defendant was doing before, during, and after those crimes. Now, an expert in digital forensics will testify, and he'll tell you that he examined the defendant's cell phone. And from the defendant's cell phone, he was able to learn that throughout the day on April 2nd, 2021, the defendant was texting with a female associate, making plans for that night. On that same date, 3 hours before Corey died, he took a selfie with Corey on the couch. He also ordered McDonald's during that afternoon, and he did a search on his phone for loss of consciousness, sleepy, and nauseous. You're going to have information before you, and I'd ask you to consider it, about what this defendant was doing all day, at home, at the hospital, after he left. What he was saying to the people at the hospital, to Corey's mom, and everyone else. His texts, his phone calls, his web searches, his selfie, even his garbage. I'm going to ask that you pay attention to all of that. And when you do that, please pay attention to what's happening to Corey that day, that afternoon. On April 2nd, 2021, when Corey was brought back to his father, he vomited. He defecated in his pants, and his body was slowly shutting down. Consider what the defendant's doing while you consider what's happening to Corey. There were a lot of people in Corey's life, and you'll hear about some of them. Some might be positive, and some might not. But don't let that derail you. You all came here to serve as jurors in this case with everything that you need. And those are your life experiences and your common sense. Use it. Corey was alive and well at 9 a.m. when he was with his mom, and he was gone by 5:03 p.m. after only being with his father, this defendant. The state submits that after you've heard and seen all of the evidence in this case, you will be firmly convinced that this defendant is guilty of abuse and murder. Because healthy 6-year-olds don't just die during the course of a business day, and neither did Corey Michelot.
Thank you. Mr. Galucci.
So we got the prosecution side in their opening statement, and so far I would say it seems like they're going for more of the emotional route rather than hard-hitting facts. I didn't hear much about all the facts that they were going to display. I heard a lot of emotional stuff, like how she dresses him in clean clothes. Like, that's normal stuff. I don't think you would dress your kid in dirty clothes. So let's reserve, because right now it seems like the state is a little lacking on the evidence side, if I'm being honest. So let's just see what they have to say later in the case. Maybe they just didn't want to have a long drawn out opening statement.
In August of 2017, Christopher Gregor was studying for his master's degree at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland. And he was also employed by Urban Teachers, which was a company that employed people to teach in urban areas. When he found out he was being sued for child support for a child he had never met, nor did he know he fathered. And that's where our story begins. Once again, I'm Mario Gallucci, along with Andrea, and we represent Christopher. And although Ms. Schron just gave you a tidy little box with a little bow around it, that is far from what we believe the evidence is going to show you. As a matter of fact, the judge just told you that nothing Ms. Schron said is evidence. As a matter of fact, nothing I'm telling you right now is evidence. The only evidence you're going to hear is going to come right from that chair. And I'm going to tell you right now that our version of this evidence looks nothing like Ms. Schron's evidence. The evidence is going to show that Christopher was notified by a court document that he had to take a paternity test, and that was in 2017. You will hear that by court and whatever, by 2018, 2019, he learned that he was the father of Corey in order to pay child support. But he decided he wasn't going to just do that. He wasn't going to just pay child support. He was going to be a father. And he, along with his family, decided that they were going to embrace Corey and bring them into his life. At the time that Christopher learned he was Corey's father, the mother, Brianna, was living with her mother and another individual. And you will learn that that individual and Brianna split up. And it was right after that split up that they notified Christopher that he owed them child support. You will hear that Christopher decided to move in with his family in Monroe, New Jersey, right here. His father David, his mother Carolyn, and they took care of this young boy. They bought him a bicycle. They taught him how to ride, taught him how to play soccer, taught him how to play baseball, taught him how to play football. And at that time, they shared custody with the Mitchellos. Then, somewhere around March of 2020, because of some challenges that Brianna Mitchello had, she no longer had custody of Corey, and custody went to Mr. Gregor. He was given full parental custody, and Miss Mitchello was not to have any visitation with Corey. And as those challenges continued, your evidence will show that Rebecca Mitchello, Brianna's mother, asked to have visitation, which was granted. And at that time, Brianna was still not able to interact in Corey's life. You will see that through time, Brianna came back into Corey's life, thanks in part to the Gregor family, who assisted her somewhat to get through her challenges, and then agreed slowly to give her visitation of Corey, and they did. Once all of this happened, though, you will see that the Mitchellos and the Gregors became like the Hatfields and the McCoys. It's unbelievable what you're going to hear in this case is evidence between the two families going back and forth over this poor child. But you will see, and what I will agree with, is what Ms. Schron just told you about a treadmill video. You're going to see that on March 20th, Christopher that young boy into a gym that's part of his residential complex. And in that gym, you see him put Corey on the treadmill, and he begins to work out while he's watching him from across the room. At some point, you're going to see Christopher go over to that treadmill and speed it up. And you're going to see Corey fall. And you're going to see him pick that boy up 6 times. And 6 times put him back on the treadmill. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to like him. And I don't care if you like him. When you see that video, you're going to be horrified. You're going to be mortified. But I'm telling you right now that the evidence you're going to see of Corey's death had absolutely nothing to do with that treadmill. As a matter of fact, the treadmill incident was on March 20th. And between March 20th and April 2nd, Corey spent a significant amount of time with Brianna, spent a significant amount of time with Christopher, and actually tried out for a flag football team here in Ocean County, and did so well in the tryout that the coach actually had discussions with Christopher to raise him up a level. You will hear that Brianna became suspicious of some bruises. Bruises to his chest, bruises to his arms. And I submit to you, those bruises did occur from treadmill. They occurred from football. They occurred from boys being boys. You'll hear testimony that on a regular basis, Christopher would take him to a field across the street and play football with him like any other dad, that he practiced with him for this tryout. You hear testimony that Christopher himself was actually an athlete who competed in football. You will hear that when she sees the bruises, Ms. Picholo, that she makes an emergency application to the court to regain the full custody, by the way, which she never, ever had gotten back from March of 2020. And that application was denied. So, she goes to DCP&P. They start an investigation. They tell her, take it to the pediatrician. And she chooses Ivy Pediatrics. She goes to Ivy Pediatrics, and they do an exam. They don't really find too much wrong with him, except that he has bruises. They do blood work. They do tests. Healthy. Just like Michonne told you. Healthy. But they recommended to her that she follow up and that they would want to take her to Jersey Shore Medical Center to follow up on a child abuse allegation from the treadmill. You will see that Corey disclosed to the doctor at Ivy that my dad made me run on the treadmill, that I fell on the treadmill, and I also fell playing football. You will hear that she went against the advice of Ivy Pediatrics and left. And she took him to another hospital, Community Health Center, I believe it's called. And at that hospital, they did another evaluation. And during that evaluation, Corey was healthy, had a few bruises, but still suspected child abuse. We recommend to you that we take Corey to Jersey Shore Medical Center. What does Brianna do? She leaves the hospital against medical advice. She leaves. She does at some point now take him by herself to Jersey Shore Medical Center, where he undergoes an evaluation. And you're going to hear that when he was at Jersey Shore Medical Center, they found that he had a possibility of something called sepsis, which you'll understand from a doctor. I'm not a doctor, I'm a lawyer. But doctors are going to testify here. And you're going to understand that sepsis is your body's reaction to an infection. And it's a rapid response to that infection. And that rapid response, you're going to hear from doctors, will tell you, can show a child is loopy, disoriented, nauseous. And Jersey Shore Medical Center told her, Brianna, leave the child here. And she did not. She took Corey home, signed papers against medical advice. She took him home. So she's running from hospital to hospital to hospital, making emergency applications, you're going to hear, making complaints to DCP&P. So what does she do next? She's so concerned. You're going to hear how concerned she is. The evidence is going to show you how concerned she is for her son's safety. You're going to hear evidence that she was so concerned, she brought him to Christopher. Because her visitation was over. Remember, she didn't have full custody. Her visitation was over. And you're going to hear evidence that when Corey came home, he was tired. And Christopher did not find that to be unusual. Because often, by the way, Christopher lived in Barnegat, Brianna lived up in the Englishtown area. You'll hear testimony that actually, at some point, they were together and actually looking at houses together. You can hear evidence of that. But when he arrived, he was tired. And yes, Christopher did not find that unusual because he would often come back from Brianna's house and he was tired. So he looked in bed. And he slept. And he's on the phone with a woman, I believe her name is Marcy Brogner, and they're making plans to go on a date. And he's talking to her about what's going on in the house, that his son is there, that he's tired, that he's sleeping. And then you're going to hear testimony, I believe, from his mother, Christopher's mother, Carolyn. Because at some point, Christopher gets concerned because Corey's now been sleeping for a long time. So he calls his mom. Mom, I'm concerned. Corey has been sleeping quite some time now. And his mother just said to him, it happens every single time he comes back from their house. Let the kid sleep. So let him sleep. Then he ordered Grubhub. He ordered a Happy Meal, assuming that at some point Corey would awaken. And he did. He woke, said he wasn't feeling well, he had some milk, and he went back to bed on the couch. You're going to see that Christopher took a picture of Corey on that couch and sent it to this woman, Marcy Brogner, about how Corey was sound asleep on the couch. you're going to hear testimony that when he did awake, he was complaining of leg pain. Serious enough that Christopher was concerned. He began to throw up. You're going to hear testimony that he was loopy. You're going to hear testimony that he looked like he was drunk. And you're going to see Christopher drive him to Southern Ocean Medical Center. And you're going to see him pull up to the emergency department. And you're going to see him carry that little boy into a hospital. And you're going to see him standing there holding that child in his arms, which seems like hours, before anybody comes to help him. And they do. And they come and they help him and they take Corey away. And they start to do some testing. And then they decide they need to do a CAT scan. And while during the CAT scan, Corey seizes, goes into cardiac arrest. Life-saving techniques are now used to try to revive him. And he dies. And it sucks. This is a kid. No child should die. No child should die. But it's not murder. And you're going to hear testimony from doctors and experts. You're going to hear testimony from Dr. Larkin, who, by the way, Dr. Larkin has no skin in the game. This is a doctor that comes to the hospital. He's from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner here in Ocean County. He has no idea what the relationship is between Christopher and Brianna and Christopher and Rebecca. He's got no clue. He just evaluates the child by science and medicine. Dr. Larkin found that Corey's blood results from Southern Ocean showed incredibly high white blood count, high glucose, and high lactic acid. And said that's all indicative of sepsis caused by an infection. The same sepsis that Jersey Shore Medical Center told Brianna Micholo, do not take this child from the hospital. He possibly has sepsis. We need to evaluate him. Chief Medical Examiner here in Ocean County, his evaluation, you're going to hear evidence, sepsis, infection, not murder. A CAT scan ordered after Corey's death by Dr. Larkin, evidence will show, showed the possibility of pneumonia. Pneumonia is an infection, and an infection causes sepsis. So the Ocean County Medical Examiner, the first person to evaluate Corey, which, by the way, is 12 days after the treadmill. 12 days. You're going to hear testimony that when he gets to Southern Ocean Medical Center, there's no report of any additional bruising since March 20th. You're going to see there's no signs of, Ms. Sharon said, I hit with a baseball bat, stepped on, I don't know what she said, whatever she said. You're going to hear evidence that doesn't show any proof of any of that. As a matter of fact, their own chief medical examiner, who did the autopsy, was inconclusive and could not come up with the cause or manner of death yet, pending investigation and toxicology reports. And he said, their chief medical examiner said that the injuries sustained to Corey were all due to life saving techniques. He left the hospital. He was distraught. He was upset. He told the nurse, "I need privacy." And he left. You're going to hear testimony that he called his parents immediately. Said Corey passed. They, Dave and Carolyn, you will hear, went immediately to the hospital and called the Stafford Police Department to tell them their grandson had just died in the hospital. You need to do an investigation here. They reported it. What did Brianna and Rebecca do immediately? Talk about him leaving. Rebecca and Brianna immediately turned to social media, where they tortured and crucified that man, posting a picture the same day of him in a prison outfit behind bars, wishing him death. They formed a chat group on Facebook dedicated to Corey, but evidence is going to show it really wasn't dedicated to Corey. It was dedicated into harassing the Gregor family. So much so, you're going to hear testimony that both Brianna and Rebecca were arrested in Monroe, New Jersey, and pled guilty for harassing Dave and Carolyn Gregor by protesting in front of their house, putting up posters on
Objection,
telephone.
Judge.
Yes, please. Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen, I need to give you some instructions. First, as you've heard me say, and I think the attorneys agree, what is said in opening statements is not evidence. Any representations that the attorneys have made to you are their anticipations that the evidence is going to show certain things, particularly when we get to things like medical conditions, observations of physicians. The attorneys admittedly are not doctors. So you're to accept these opening statements exactly as they're intended, what the lawyers claim they think they can prove in the case. If the lawyers are not able to adduce evidence which proves those things, then you're to disregard those parts of the opening statements which made those representations which were not later backed up by evidence. Next, there's just been an issue of whether or not there were some charges against the Michelos that resulted in some disposition. So first, the parties dispute whether or not there was a disposition of any kind of finding against the Michelos. That has not previously been presented to me. So what I'm going to do is, when that's presented, I'm going to make a ruling on whether that's admissible. Typically, municipal court level offenses are not admissible as proof of anything. Only if someone is convicted of a crime and they testify as a witness, and by a crime I mean a superior court level offense, would that evidence come in, and then I would give you an instruction as to how you analyze that conviction based upon the evidence. Here it's undisputed that there's no such conviction for a crime. So I'm going to ask you to disregard that reference right now that there's been some disposition in municipal court. If and when we come to that point, I'm going to make a ruling about what, if anything, you're allowed to consider in relation to that disposition in municipal court. At that time, if I allow it into evidence, I'll give you a specific instruction, and you're only to consider it for that limited purpose. But at this point, there's clearly no criminal conviction, so you should strike that part from your recollection. Mr. Gallucci is going to move on. I appreciate your time and attention. Mr. Gallucci.
So you're going to hear testimony that it was as a result of threats made to the Gregor family that Christopher stayed away. He was afraid to come back to New Jersey. But when contacted by his family that he was wanted for questioning, you will see GPS that shows him actually heading back to New Jersey to speak with the police. He is stopped, and I believe it's Alcoa, Tennessee. Not because they were looking for him. They were looking for his car. He was free to leave. They took his car because they had a search warrant. And they searched his car, and they found a cell phone, maybe some other things. And then he came back to New Jersey. Didn't stay away. Didn't run away. You're going to hear testimony from 2, maybe 3 experts. You're going to hear testimony from Dr. Andrew, who's a forensic pathologist, I believe, from New Hampshire. I believe they're going to call him as an expert. You're going to hear from our expert, Dr. Michael Bodden, who's here in New York, and they both completely disagree on the result of Corey's death. Dr. Bodden, supported by medical records, is going to testify that Corey died from sepsis as a result of pneumonia, natural causes, that the bruises from March 20th had absolutely nothing to do with his death, had nothing to do with his sepsis, and that any bruising he had now was absolutely directly related to the life-saving techniques at the hospital in Southern Lucia Methodist. Now I get to that point where I want you to remember that you guys were chosen by all of us out of hundreds of people we went through. And we chose you because we all believed you would be fair, you would be impartial, you would listen to their evidence. I don't have to give you any evidence. I'm going to give it to you, but I don't have to. and I know you will listen. And this is important, as Judge Ryan explains to you all the time. This is one of the most important things you could do as a citizen. He uses the example that our men and women are fighting in foreign countries and dying. So you can sit here right now. This is an unbelievable, not only civic responsibility, but a human responsibility. You, as a human, are going to judge another human. And that is an awesome responsibility. And I know you all take it very seriously. Thank you.
Wow. So that was way longer than the prosecution's. This guy on the defense was really defending. I mean, I guess some people will think it's weird because he put the bad stuff that Chris did out in the open, but I think addressing it is good, because if they don't address it now, when the prosecution does, they're gonna blow it up to a crazy different magnitude. So I think that defense attorney actually did the right thing in this situation by addressing it. Also, it does seem like the story is very different on the prosecution side. They're making it seem like, you know, he never knew about the kid, and then he finally just randomly knew about the kid, and then he helped Brianna. He helped get her off her feet. He helped teach the kid all different sports that he was never taught. It seems like when he joined the kid's life, he enriched the kid's life. But again, the prosecution doesn't agree with that. So we're gonna have to see throughout this trial who was technically right, or I guess no one's really right, but who maybe was telling more the truth. So let's continue watching. We have a little bit more right now. They're gonna do a little bit of crossing on Brianna, so let's get into that.
You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this proceeding will be the truth?
Yes.
Would you have a seat, please? State your full name for the record and spell both of your names.
It's Brianna Michelo, BREANNA MICCIOLO.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunter.
Brianna, just before we start, I just want to remind you that you're going to have to keep your voice up, okay? 'Cause the jury's going to have to hear you. So, Brianna, how old are you?
I'm 27,
And what is your birth date?
November 7th, 1996.
And where do you live?
East Brunswick,
And whom do you live with?
my boyfriend and daughter.
And do you work?
Yes.
And what is your occupation?
Data entry,
Who is Corey Michelo?
my son,
And when did you give birth to Corey?
May 1st, 2014.
And how old were you when you gave birth to Corey?
17.
And what grade were you in when you gave birth to Corey?
11th grade.
And who is Corey's biological father?
The defendant.
Man, take this microphone and just slide it right in front of you, okay?
Okay.
Put it here, right in the middle there, as far as it goes.
That's as far as it goes.
Okay, let me turn it a little bit, Tracy. I want you to pretend that you're basically speaking all the way to the end of the jury box, all right? All the jurors need to hear you and see you. If they can't hear you down there, it's like you're not testifying, okay?
Okay.
So I know it may be difficult, but please try and keep your voice up.
So who is Corey's biological father?
The defendant,
And what's his name?
Christopher Gregor.
And how old were you when you first met Christopher Gregor?
16.
And do you know what the defendant's birth date is?
It's May 1992.
Now, you're familiar with Christopher Gregor, correct?
Yes.
And you've known him for many years, right?
Yes,
And you see him located in the courtroom today?
I do.
And can you please point to him and tell us where he's seated and what he's wearing?
He's sitting over there wearing a suit.
Identifying Mr. Gregor, Your Honor.
So noted, thank you.
Now, is your son Corey no longer with us?
No. Well, yes.
And can you tell the jury the day he passed?
April 2nd, 2021.
And how old was Corey when he passed?
He was 6.
And what types of things did your son Corey like to do as a 6-year-old?
He liked reading, coloring, painting, playing outside.
And what type of demeanor did Corey have as a 6-year-old?
He was happy, silly, loving.
Permission to approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. I'm now showing you what's been marked S1 for identification purposes. And do you recognize that?
Yes,
Okay. And is that a picture?
yes.
And can you tell the jurors what that's a picture of?
Oh, that's a picture of Corey.
And did you take that picture?
Yes,
So you're familiar with
Yes.
your son Corey, who's depicted in the picture.
yes.
Your Honor, permission to publish S1.
Any objections?
None,
Are you ready to get the evidence first?
We can move it into evidence, yes. Move into evidence and publish.
No objections to evidence?
No, Your Honor.
S1 in evidence.
Now, Brianna, can you tell the jurors who's depicted in that picture?
My son Corey,
And how old was he in that picture?
6.
And who took that picture?
I did.
And can you tell the jurors what you were doing when you took that picture of Corey?
We were at the park playing in the snow.
Okay. Now, Brianna, how old was Corey when the defendant entered his life?
He was 5.
And was there a paternity test?
Yes,
And how old was Corey when it was determined that the defendant was his biological father?
around 4.
And calling your attention to October 28th of 2020, were you and the defendant granted joint custody of Corey?
Yes,
And when that happened, who became the resident parent of Corey?
Christopher.
And when I say resident parent, can you tell us what that means?
He resided with him.
And did you have visitation?
Yes,
And was this ordered by the family court in Middlesex County?
yes.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness, counsel?
Yes, of course.
The order? Yeah, sure. Thank you. Your Honor, permission to approach?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Brianna, I'm now going to show you what's been marked S2 for identification purposes. And can you tell the jury what that is?
It's a court order.
Okay, and where is it a court order from? Is it from the
Family court.
Okay, and on top of this order, is there a date present on S2 where it says filed?
Yes, it's October 28th, 2020.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors what the judge's name is on this order?
Judge Silva.
Okay. And going down into this order where it says it is on this 28th day of October 2020 ordered as follows, can you please read for the jurors what it says in number 1?
Yes. It says the party shall attend court-sponsored mediation on the issues of parenting time and defendant Christopher Gregor's name change application. Said mediation will take place at a date and time to be set by the court's mediator.
Okay, and continuing on, can you please read?
The parties shall share joint legal custody of the minor child, Corey, date of birth May 1st, 2014, pendente-like basis. Defendant Christopher Gregor shall continue to be the parent of primary residence, and defendant Brianna shall have unsupervised parenting time as follows.
Could you please continue?
Alternating weekends beginning November 6, 2020, from Friday at 5:30 until Sunday at 6 p.m. Brianna shall pick up and drop off Corey at Christopher's home.
Okay, can you continue on, Brianna?
Wednesday evenings from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Brianna shall pick up and drop off Corey at Christopher's home. No one except Brianna and Rebecca shall be present in the home during Brianna's parenting time. And whoever has their child during a scheduled extracurricular activity shall transport him to the activity, however the other parent may attend.
Okay, and then going to number 3, does it talk about the parties unblocking each other from the other cell phone?
Yes.
And then going to number 4, does it talk about the parties shall engage in co-parenting counseling?
Yes.
And then going to number 6, it talks about the parties being barred from making disparaging remarks, correct?
Correct.
And then it goes on to give a holiday schedule for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Correct.
And what does number 8 say, please?
Brianna Mitchell shall have Skype calls or FaceTime calls with Corey on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturdays and Sundays during the weekends when Corey is with Christopher. Similarly, on the weekends that Corey is with Brianna, Christopher shall have Skype or FaceTime with Corey on Saturdays and Sundays. Neither party shall record these calls.
Okay. And the caption of this order is, who is the plaintiff in the matter?
My mom,
Okay, and who is listed as the defendants in the order?
myself, and Christopher.
Now, Brianna, have you struggled with substance abuse?
Yes.
And have you specifically struggled with drugs?
Yes.
And can you please tell the jurors about this?
Yes. In my early 20s, I struggled with drug abuse. When I was younger, I went through a lot, and I feel like I used the drugs to suppress my emotions. I didn't really have the coping skills that I do now, and like I said, I was just going through a lot. But I've been clean currently for a long time.
And have you ever used drugs in front of your son, Corey?
No.
And can you tell us why you were granted custody of Corey in October of 2020?
I went through a drug program, and I provided clean urines, and I just fought really hard because I hated living without my son.
Now, calling your attention to September of 2020, where was Corey living?
In Barnegat.
Okay, and who was Corey living with?
The defendant.
And where did the defendant reside?
In Barnegat.
Okay.
Atlantic Heights.
Okay, when you say the Atlantic Heights, can you tell the jurors what that is?
It's an apartment complex.
And did the defendant move from his parents' home in Monroe Township to the apartment in Barnegat?
Yes.
And who else lived in the apartment in Barnegat with Corey and the defendant?
Just them.
Now, Rihanna, in October of 2020, can you tell the jurors where you were living?
In Englishtown.
And what type of home did you live in Englishtown?
A townhome.
And who lived in the townhome in Englishtown?
Myself, my mother's boyfriend, and my sister.
And can you describe for the jurors what the townhome looked like in Englishtown?
It was 2 stories with a finished basement.
And where was your room located in the house?
In the basement.
And can you tell the jurors how come you were living in your mother's home in October of 2020?
I wasn't working at the time, so I couldn't afford it.
And about how far away is Englishtown, New Jersey from Barnegat, New Jersey?
About an hour.
Now, in October of 2020, what grade was Corey in?
He was in first grade.
And what school did Corey attend?
Cecil S. Collins.
And the Cecil S. Collins Elementary School, what town is that located in?
Barnegat.
Now, calling your attention to March 19 of 2021, did you have visitation of Corey that weekend?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, when did your visitation start with Corey that weekend?
March 19th.
Okay, and that would have been a Friday night?
Friday.
And where did you go to have your visitation with Corey on Friday the 19th?
The defendant's home.
And why did you go to the defendant's apartment on the 19th to visit Corey?
The court order made it hard to go back to my house, and I just didn't want to fight with him. It was just easier than actually fighting with him.
Okay, and when you're talking about the court order, are you referring to the court order from October 28th of 2020?
Yes.
And are you specifically referring to subsection C, that no one except Brianna and Rebecca shall be present in the home during Brianna's parenting time?
Yes.
So during that time frame, Brianna, was it common for you to go see Corey at the defendant's apartment?
Yes.
And calling your attention specifically to the 19th, did you sleep at the defendant's apartment that night?
Yes.
And why did you stay at the defendant's apartment that night?
The next day I had something to do with Corey early.
And during that time period, was it common for you to stay over the defendant's home during your visitations with Corey?
Yes.
And was the defendant always there when you would stay at the apartment to visit Corey?
Yes.
He was always there?
Yes.
Okay. And what if the defendant had plans?
He would leave, and it would just be me and Corey.
Now, calling your attention to Saturday, March 20th at 2021, did you take Corey for the day?
Yes.
And did you previously discuss your plans with the defendant?
I did.
And can you tell the jurors where you and Corey went?
I took Corey to Pennsylvania to visit my dad for his birthday.
And what part of Pennsylvania did you go to?
Abington.
And what did you and Corey and your dad do in Abington, Pennsylvania?
We went mini golfing and we got ice cream.
And about how far of a drive would it be from Barnegat, New Jersey to Abington, Pennsylvania?
About an hour and a half.
And what time that day were you supposed to bring Corey back home from the visitation?
Between 2 and 3.
And when you were driving back to Barnegat, what were the traffic conditions that day?
There was a lot of traffic.
And what happened due to the traffic?
I was late.
And besides the traffic conditions, why were you also running late?
Corey was enjoying himself, so I didn't want to just rip him away from that.
And who did you tell that you were going to be late that day in bringing him back?
The defendant.
And did the defendant send you a text message on March 20th at approximately 3:04 p.m. about you being late?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to approach.
Yes.
Brianna, I'm now showing you what's been marked S5 for identification purposes. And do you recognize those?
I do.
And can you tell the jurors what those are?
There are text messages between me and the defendant.
And you're familiar with those text messages?
Yes.
And are those text messages that were located in your cell phone?
Yes.
Okay, now during the course of this investigation, did you provide your cellular phone to the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office?
Yes.
And when did you provide your cell phone to the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office?
The day Corey passed.
And you provided your cell phone to Detective Mitchell.
Correct.
And by doing this, you voluntarily agreed that the prosecutor's office would search your phone.
Yes.
So calling your attention now to S5 in particular, at approximately 3:04, what did the defendant text you in regard to you dropping off Corey on March 20th, 21 at approximately 3:04?
He texted me, "When you get here, please just drop him off."
And what was your response?
I said, "Okay."
And then what did he say next?
He said, "You almost 2 hours late, what the fuck?"
And what did the defendant say next?
He said, "This Friday, however long late you are, is how long after 4:30 you can come."
Can you continue, please? What did he say next?
"FYI, this is beyond pissing me off now. My entire plans for today are ruined.
What did you respond?
I'm driving as fast as I can. There was traffic. I'm sorry." And he said, "I don't care. Whenever you get here, we will take the difference in time from 2 o'clock until then, and that is how long we will add on to 4:30 for when you come on Friday now."
And then, can you tell us?
Yes. He said, "I'm at the clubhouse gym. Just drop him off here." I said, "Okay." And then again, I said, "He can't get in." And then I said, "I apologize for being so late, and I mean it. I'm not saying this because I want you to change your mind about Friday. I will come at 6:45, no problem. It's understandable, but I did want to tell you that there was no ill intentions there. I didn't mean to be so late."
Okay, so the text message that you're referring to regarding the clubhouse gym, can you tell for the jurors what time that text message is from regarding Corey not being able to get in?
At 4:14 p.m.
Thank you, Brandon. So, Brianna, on March 20th of 2021, at approximately 4:15, did you drop off Corey to his father at the clubhouse gym at the Atlantic Heights apartment complex?
Yes.
And had you ever been inside the gym located at the clubhouse gym?
I have.
And can you just briefly describe what the clubhouse gym looks like?
There's weights and treadmills.
And where did you park when you dropped Corey off that day?
By the entrance of the clubhouse.
And did Corey have issues getting inside of the gym?
Yes.
And can you please explain what happened regarding Corey being able to enter the clubhouse gym on March 20th of 2021?
The door was locked, so I texted the defendant that he couldn't get in.
And then what happened after that?
He came and unlocked the door.
And what was the defendant's demeanor when he let Corey into the gym and then at that point in time?
He was very angry.
And at any point during this, did he come to your car?
Yes.
After you dropped Corey off on March 20th, 2021, when is the next time that you saw Corey?
I believe it was Tuesday.
Would that have been March 23rd,
Yes.
2021? And on that particular day, did you drive to Barnegat?
Yes.
And did you drive there to visit Corey?
Yes.
And where did you visit with Corey that day?
The defendant's home.
And about what time do you think did you arrive at the defendant's apartment to visit with Corey?
maybe 4:30.
And that would have been your weekday visitation with Corey?
Yes.
So it would have been like after the school day?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
And where was the defendant when you visited Corey?
He was home.
And did you stay over the apartment that night?
No.
And what time did you leave the apartment?
I would say around 9:30.
And while you were with Corey, did you see any bruises on him?
I did. Yes.
And can you describe for the jurors the bruises that you saw?
He had a bruise on his forehead, and it was very odd shaped, and it kind of looked like an imprint of something.
And besides that bruise, did you see another bruise?
He had one on his chest. It looked like a scrape.
And where were you when you saw these bruises on Corey?
Corey and I went on a walk in the neighborhood.
And did you speak to Corey about the bruises that you saw?
Yes.
And where were you and Corey when you spoke?
We were on the walk.
And what was Corey's demeanor when you spoke to him about the bruises that you saw?
He just seemed upset and scared.
Now, calling your attention to March 26th of 2021, did you make a referral to DCP&P?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors who DCP&P is?
They are the Department of Children's Protection and Permanency.
Yeah, or people know them as DIPPYBOI.
Yeah.
And how did you contact DCP&P?
Through the hotline.
And why did you make a referral to DCP&P at this time?
I felt like Corey's abuse was getting really bad, and I felt like they needed to do something about it.
Now, drawing your attention to Saturday, March 27th at 2021, did you see Corey that day?
I'm sorry, what day was it?
Saturday, March 27th of 2021. Did you see Corey that day?
Yes.
And where did you see Corey?
In Stafford or Barnegat.
And why were you at Stafford or Barnegat to see Corey?
He was having flag football tryouts.
And where did you go to see the flag football tryouts?
I think it was South Jersey, like Stafford or Barnegat.
Okay. And did you see the flag football tryouts?
Yes.
And who brought Corey to the tryout?
The defendant.
And how did you arrive to the fields for the flag football tryouts?
I drove myself.
And why did you meet the defendant there that day?
He didn't want to drive with me because he didn't want to be seen with me. I'm too trashy.
And what type of contact was allowed for first grade flag football?
It's no contact.
What, if any, injuries did Corey sustain at the flag football tryout?
None.
After the flag football tryout, did you take Corey back to your house in Manalapan for visitation?
I did.
And where did you take Corey to?
My house.
And did you have a conversation with the defendant at the tryout about bringing Corey back to your home for visitation?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors what the defendant said in regard to you bringing Corey back to your home?
He told me just to take him for the weekend.
And were you expecting that you were going to be able to take Corey home from tryouts?
No.
And that occurred during the tryout?
Yes.
Now, in regard to the court-ordered visitation schedule, did you and the defendant always follow what was specifically said in the court order?
No.
And can you tell the jurors why not?
I'm not sure.
Well, what about, would there be circumstances which would...
Oh, yes, Christopher would let me take him to my house knowing the people that he didn't want to be there were there a few times.
Okay. when did you bring Corey back to the house in Barnegat after you brought him to your home after flag football?
On Sunday.
And can you tell the jurors what time did you return Corey to his father the next day?
Around 6.
And while Corey was at your home after the flag football tryouts, what, if any, bruising did you see to his body?
He had a large bruise on his chest. He had, it looked like fingerprint bruises all over his arms and legs. And he had it was very large on his hip, on his side.
Now, besides the bruises, can you tell the jurors about Corey's physical condition?
He was normal.
Now, during your visitation with Corey at your home in Manalapan, was Corey exposed to anyone with COVID?
No.
And had anyone in your family attended a funeral?
No.
Had anyone in your family attended a mass gathering?
No.
At that time, what did you learn about Corey being out of school?
The defendant took him out of school for an apparent or exposed to COVID.
Did you confront the defendant about this?
Yes.
And what did the defendant do in response?
He blocked me.
On March 30th of 2021, did you contact the pediatrician about getting Corey an appointment?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors why you contacted the pediatrician?
Well, because I suspected that Corey was being abused, and I went on the advice of a DCPMP worker.
Objection.
So sustained. You should strike that. That's hearsay. It's someone else told her something. So you should strike that, not consider it. If the state calls that person, then we'll deal with it at that time. Thank you.
Did you get an appointment with the pediatrician?
Yes.
And what day was the appointment scheduled for?
April 1st.
And April 1st was a Thursday? And what time was the appointment scheduled for, Brianna?
Around 5.
And why did you make the appointment at 5?
Because that's when my parenting time was.
And who was the appointment made with? What pediatrician?
IV Pediatrics.
And did you have a conversation with the DCPMP caseworker?
Yes.
Without telling us the conversation, what was the caseworker's name?
Name?
Yes.
Mark Waltonowski.
Calling your attention to March 31st of 2021, did you file an emergent application for full custody of Corey with the family court?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors why you did this?
I was in fear for Corey's life.
And was DCPMP involved in this process?
Yes.
Now, on April 1st of 2021, what time did you pick up Corey that day for visitation?
Around 4:30.
And after you picked up Corey, where did you take him?
To the pediatrician.
And what was the name of the pediatrician or the practice?
IV Pediatrics.
And what town was the pediatrician located in?
Tom's River.
And when you picked up Corey that day, what was Corey's demeanor?
He was fine.
And when you picked up Corey that day, what was his physical condition?
He still had some bruises, but other than that, he was normal.
And when you got to the pediatrician's office, did Corey speak to the doctor?
Yes.
And was Corey examined by the doctor?
Yes.
And did you speak to the doctor?
I did.
Now, based upon this conversation, where did you take Corey next?
The Community Medical Center.
And where is Community Medical Center located?
I believe in Tom's River.
And why did you take Corey to Community Medical Center in Tom's River?
To be examined further, and he needed to get x-rays and blood work.
Okay. And while you were either at the pediatrician or on your way to Community Medical Center, did you receive the family court order regarding your emergent application?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to approach?
Yes, of course.
Brianna, I'm now showing you what's been marked S17 for identification purposes. And can you please read the caption at the top of just saying that who
Okay.
the court order is from?
Honorable Patrick Bradshaw, JSC, Superior Court of New Jersey, Chancery Division, Family Part.
Okay. Now, calling your attention to this order, can you tell us who opened this court order?
I did.
Okay. And the court, can you read on the first paragraph, starting with, and the court having considered, what the court considered?
Objection.
What's the basic position?
How would she know what the court considered?
It's in a document,
Well,
Judge.
I think the question is that the order recites what the court considered. Do you have an objection to that? Nope. All right, thank you.
That's the question. Can you read off the order, please?
Right here.
Yeah, you could start with.
Okay, and the court having considered the paper submitted, and the court having reviewed a letter of investigatory findings submitted by the Department of Child Protection and Permanency, and good cause having been shown, it is on this first day of April 2021 ordered as follows.
Okay. And as the court order continues, you were denied your request for emergent custody, correct?
Correct.
And then continuing with this order, specifically in subsection 2, can you read for the jury what the court order says?
It says, upon recommendation by DCPMP, this court orders that the party's minor child, Corey, undergo a CPC evaluation as a part of its ongoing investigation. The party,
Okay, and I could just stop you there. And a CPC evaluation, that would in essence be an examination for what was going on with Corey and the bruising, correct?
Objection.
It doesn't matter, Judge. I can withdraw the question.
Well,
That's
it's
fine.
leading, so it's sustained.
We'll go to subsection 3, if you could read for what the order says.
the court also orders the parties to confer with one another to agree upon a date and time in which Corey shall be made available for an examination by his pediatrician regarding Corey's bruising within 7 days of this order.
Okay. Now, after Corey was at the pediatrician, where did you take him next?
To the hospital.
And what hospital, again, did you take him to?
Community Medical Center.
And how did you drive Corey to Community Medical Center?
In my car.
And what was Corey's physical condition while in the car?
He was okay.
And can you tell the jurors what Corey's demeanor was when he was in the car?
Same as always, he was normal.
And about what time did you arrive at Community Medical Center?
Probably like between 6 and 7.
And was Corey examined at Community Medical Center?
Yes.
And what department was this in?
The emergency room.
And did Corey speak to the doctor?
Yes.
And did you speak to the doctor?
Yes.
And based upon your conversation, where did you take Corey next?
Jersey Shore Medical Center.
Now, while you were at Community Medical Center, before you got to Jersey Shore, did the defendant send you a text message as to where you were?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to approach.
Yes.
7. Mario. Okay. I'm now showing you what has been marked S7 for identification purposes. And do you recognize these?
Yes.
And are these what?
Text messages between me and the defendant.
Okay. And calling your attention on S7, in particular to the first text message contained in the document, can you please tell the jury what the defendant texted you?
Judge, I can object since it's a document, not an evidence. I don't know how she could read from it.
Your Honor, we already had a 104 hearing.
What, do you want to move into evidence?
I can move them into evidence. I was going to do it at the end, but...
Okay, I'll agree to that.
Okay, so I have the other ones too I can move into evidence. So the state will move it into evidence as well.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to hear about these text messages. The statements of the defendant, you can consider as statements. I'm going to give you an instruction later about statements of defendant electronically or if there's any oral ones. So I'll ask you to consider them at the end of the case in connection with that instruction. In addition, in terms of the statements of Ms. Michelot, they're actually hearsay, but she's here testifying about it. So I'll allow them in for that reason. I concluded it wouldn't make much sense for me just to give you the defendant's statements or responses if you couldn't see the other half of the conversation. So in order to be able to give you a full picture, I'm allowing both Ms. Michelot's messages and the defendant's alleged responses into evidence in order to give you that context to be able to analyze them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so turning your attention then to S7 in particular at the top of the page at approximately 4:1. That's can you read the time for the jurors?
7:26.
Okay, and what did the defendant text you?
He said, "Where are you?"
And what did he text you next?
He said, "It'll be past 7:30 and I will take over and be with my son."
And what did he say after that?
"I have no idea where you are and you will not tell me on the phone. Why is that? You were past your time by the court order and I want to be there for my son."
Oh. And what was your response to that?
I said, "I am driving to Jersey Shore Medical Center. I'm doing what a caseworker for DCPMP told me to do."
Thank you. Now, Brianna, while you were at Community Medical Center, did you sign Corey out of the hospital?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors why you did this?
Because I wanted to drive him myself to Jersey Shore Medical Center.
And why did you want to drive him yourself to Jersey Shore Medical Center?
Because I was already late and I didn't want to spend another 30 minutes waiting.
And what had the hospital offered at the time?
To transport Corey.
Now, while Corey was at Community Medical Center, was he physically examined?
Yes.
And what was Corey's condition at Community Medical Center?
He was fine.
Now, did Jersey Shore Medical Center have a pediatric abuse specialist on staff?
Yes.
And while all this was happening, did you speak to Barb, the DCPMP worker?
Yes.
Now, after you and Corey left Community Medical Center, where did you immediately go?
Jersey Shore Medical Center.
And what was Corey's physical condition while you were with Corey in the car?
Fine. He was just watching videos on my phone.
And what was Corey's demeanor?
Normal. Happy.
Now, approximately what time did you arrive at Jersey Shore Medical Center with Corey?
Around 8.
And did you speak to the doctor at Jersey Shore Medical Center?
Yes.
And did Corey speak to the doctor at Jersey Shore Medical Center?
Yes.
And what was Corey's demeanor while at Jersey Shore Medical Center?
He was okay. He was just a little tired because it was getting late.
And was Corey examined by a doctor at Jersey Shore Medical Center?
He was.
And what tests were performed on Corey at Jersey Shore Medical Center?
He had an x-ray and blood work.
And while Corey was at Jersey Shore Medical Center, was he seen by the pediatric abuse specialist?
I believe so.
Or is he seen by an emergency room doctor?
I think it was an emergency room doctor.
Now, while you were at Jersey Shore Medical Center on April 1st of 2021, did you have a telephone conversation with the defendant?
Yes.
And about what time did that conversation occur?
Around 8:30.
And can you tell us about the conversation you had with the defendant?
He called me and he asked me to leave the hospital with Corey, and I said I wouldn't. I want him to be checked out, and then he started just verbally attacking me and fighting with me.
And did the defendant know that you were at Jersey Shore Hospital with Corey?
Yes.
And can you tell us what happened at the hospital regarding your cell phone?
My phone died.
Now, at 11:43 p.m., did the defendant send you a text message asking you where you were?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to approach? No, you're S8. I'm showing you what's been marked S8 for identification purposes. And do you recognize that?
Yes.
And those are text messages from your phone?
Yes.
And you're familiar with those text messages?
I am.
Your Honor, permission to enter into evidence and publish?
Certainly, so that's S8.
S8.
Any objection?
None.
S8 in evidence.
Okay, now calling your attention to the first message. Can you tell the jurors what the defendant said to you and what time that this occurred?
At 11:43, the defendant said, "Why are you now ignoring me?"
And can you tell the jurors what your response was?
I said, "My phone died and I just got a charger. I'm at the hospital because DCPMP spoke to doctors and they told me to come here. You could have came here from the beginning. You said no, drop him off. We could have taken turns the whole time. I'm not doing anything wrong. Stay up and I'll drop him off as soon as we're done."
Can you please turn the page? Now calling your attention, can you please continue to read the first two messages with the dates and the time as well to the jury?
On 4/1/21 at 11:52, I said, "You're not going to stay awake." And then on 4/2/21 at 12:48, I said, "How are you going to go to court and say anything about me keeping him? You won't even stay up for me to drop him off, and I'm offering now."
Okay. Thank you. Now, after those text messages, when is the next time you heard from the defendant?
The next morning, or that morning.
Now, was Corey released from Jersey Shore Medical Center?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors about his blood work?
It was all normal.
And what about in regard to any x-rays or scans?
That was normal as well.
And was that text message at approximately 11:43, was that the last time that you had contact with the defendant that evening?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors why would you try to bring Corey back to his father's house from Jersey Shore Medical Center?
So I didn't break the court order.
Now, after you left Jersey Shore with Corey, can you tell the jurors where you went?
I went to my house in Englishtown.
And how long of a ride was it?
About 45 minutes.
And what was Corey's demeanor in the car ride?
He was tired. It was 1 a.m. and he fell asleep in the car.
And about what time did you then arrive at your home?
I want to say like around 1:30.
Okay. And when you got to your house, can you tell us who was awake?
No one.
And when you got to your house, where did you and Corey immediately go?
We went to my bedroom
And where was your bedroom located in the house?
in the basement.
And where did you and Corey sleep that night?
We slept in my bed.
Okay. And while you slept in bed with Corey, what was his physical condition?
He was okay.
And can you tell the jurors what Corey's demeanor was while you slept in bed with him?
Normal.
And can you tell the jurors why you slept in bed with Corey that night?
It was just easier because it was really late and I just didn't want to get him ready in his room.
What time did you and Corey wake up the next morning?
Around 7:30.
And when Corey woke up, did you dress him?
Yes.
And where did you dress Corey?
In my room.
And what did you dress Corey in?
I put him in a sweatshirt, jeans, and sneakers.
And what about his underwear?
They were blue underwear.
And what was the condition of the clothes that you dressed Corey in?
They were clean.
And after you dressed Corey, where did the two of you then go?
We ate breakfast in the kitchen.
And when you went upstairs to eat breakfast in the kitchen, who was there?
My mom and her boyfriend, Richie.
And did Corey have breakfast?
Yes,
And did he eat?
he did.
And do you remember what he ate?
He ate a bagel and a Gregor.
And were you with Corey the entire time that he was eating breakfast?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors what was Corey's physical condition in the morning when he was eating breakfast?
He was okay.
And what about his demeanor?
Normal. He was fine.
Now, that morning of the 2nd at approximately 6:48 a.m., did you receive a text message from the defendant?
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness?
Yes.
It's the rest of them. You saw them already?
Okay.
Fran, I'm now showing you what's been marked S8, which has already been admitted to evidence. Turning your attention to the text message conversation. Can you please tell the jurors what the defendant said, starting with that particular message, and can you let the jurors know the time and the date as well?
Okay. On 4/2/21 at 6:46 a.m., he said, "I'm going to court because you decided to go when you had 7 days last night, and by your text, you were still there at 12:50 at night. You are a detriment to Corey's health, and I will be going to court today about it."
And can you read the next message from the defendant as well?
Yes, 6:46. He said, "By the way, school starts at 8:30, so have him back before 8:30.
Brianna, after Corey had breakfast, where did you drive to?
To the defendant's house.
And when you were driving to the defendant's house in Barnegat, where was Corey seated in the car?
He was in the back seat.
And how long of it was a drive to Barnegat?
About an hour.
And what was Corey doing while you were driving to Barnegat with him in the car?
He was watching YouTube on my phone.
And what was Corey's demeanor in the car?
He was okay.
Now, while you were driving Corey to Barnegat, did you receive a text message from the defendant?
I did.
Your Honor, permission to approach?
Yes, certainly.
Fran, I'm now showing you what has been marked S9 for identification purposes. Do you recognize this?
Yes,
And you're familiar with that?
I am.
And is that a text message that you received from the defendant, which was located on your phone?
Yes.
And can you please tell the jurors what the defendant texted you, including the date and the time of the text message?
Yes, on 4/2/21 at 8:37 a.m., he said, I mean, considering you did kidnap my son for an entire day and night, the minimum that is happening is an entire day and night is going to be removed from your next visit maximum. Hopefully the courts will agree with my application this morning and you will lose all rights.
Thank you. Now, when you got to the defendant's apartment complex to drop off Corey, where did you park?
In front of the defendant's home.
And about what time did you get to the apartment complex to drop off Corey that morning?
Around 9 a.m.
And when you got there, where was the defendant's car?
I'm not sure. It wasn't there.
And did you text the defendant asking where he was?
Yes.
And what did the defendant say to you in regard to where he was?
He said he was home.
And before Corey had left the car, did you provide Corey with a piece of paper?
I did.
And what did you give Corey?
It was a paper from the hospital that had information so the defendant could look at his records.
And why did you do that?
I was just being nice.
And did you speak to Corey in the car before you sent him into the defendant's home?
I did.
And was that the last time that you spoke to Corey?
It was.
Did Corey exit your car?
He did.
And can you tell the jurors where Corey walked?
He walked inside defendant's home.
And how was Corey walking when he went to the defendant's apartment?
Fine.
And did Corey open the apartment door of the
Yes.
defendant's apartment?
Yes.
Now, continuing on, in the morning of April 2nd of 2021, were you and the defendant arguing?
Yes.
Okay, permission to approach S11. I'm now showing you what's been marked S11 for identification purposes. And again, are those text messages that were contained in your phone? And you're familiar with those messages?
I am.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move to publish and into evidence of S11.
No objection.
S11 evidence.
So, Brianna, starting with the top message, can you please tell the jury about your conversation with the defendant?
Yes, at 9:48 a.m., I said, stop being so cocky. If I were you, I definitely wouldn't be.
And
Yeah.
then what did the defendant respond?
He said, yes, I am a ludicrous charge by you that when you went to court yesterday was completely thrown out and disregarded.
And can you continue with his next message?
He said, shows how much evidence there is, doesn't it? You're going to be in for a rude awakening today.
So, Brianna, what is the next time that you heard from the defendant on April 2nd of 2021?
Around 3:30.
And did you speak to the defendant on the telephone?
Yes.
And at 3:30 on April 2nd, what did the defendant tell you about Corey?
He said he was lethargic. His legs were hurting. He was sleeping all day. And he was throwing up and just didn't feel good. And then he told me to send Corey's insurance card to him.
And did you send the defendant Corey's insurance card?
I did.
And did the defendant say anything about taking Corey to the hospital?
Yes.
And did the defendant tell you what hospital he was taking Corey to?
No.
Was that the last time that you had spoken to the defendant on that day?
Yes.
And did you learn what hospital Corey was taken to?
Yes.
After the phone conversation, did you know at that time what hospital Corey was taken to?
No.
And at that time, what did you do?
I started calling the hospitals to see if Corey was there. I also called my local police department to kind of report Corey as like I don't know where he is, and he's not feeling good. He's sick.
And about 6 o'clock that day on the 2nd, did the police come to your home?
Yes.
And did you learn at that time that Corey had passed?
I did.
Now, on that same day that Corey passed away, did you go to the police station and provide a statement?
I did.
And whom did you speak to?
Detective Dennis Mitchell.
And what did you give to Detective Mitchell at the police station?
My cell phone.
And did you voluntarily provide that to the detective?
Yes.
And did you also allow officers to photograph your home in Englishtown?
Yes.
The photos. Your Honor, permission to
Please.
approach. Your Honor, I'm now showing you what's been marked S21, S20, S23, S19, S35, S32, S33, and S24, and S34, and also S24. Now, calling your attention to S22, are you familiar with the area
Yes.
depicted there? And can you tell the jurors what that is?
It's a TV stand in my bedroom.
And in your hand, you're holding a what?
Photograph.
And you're familiar with that because it's in your bedroom?
Correct.
I'm now showing you what's been marked S23 for identification purposes. And can you tell the jurors what that is?
This is my bedroom.
Okay, and what you're holding is what, a photograph?
Yes.
And you're familiar with the area depicted in that photograph?
Yes.
Okay, I'm now showing you what's been marked S20. Is this another photograph?
Yes.
Okay, and are you familiar with the area depicted in that photograph?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's the entrance to my house.
Okay, I'm now showing you what's been marked S21. Are you familiar with that photograph?
Yes.
And what is that a picture of?
It's a hallway to my bedroom.
Okay, so you're familiar with what's depicted in that photograph. I'm now going to show you what has been marked S19. Are you familiar with the area depicted in that photograph?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors what that is a photograph of?
It's a photo of the defendant's home.
And you've been to that location before.
Yes.
I'm now showing you what has been marked S24. And are you familiar as to what's depicted in that photograph?
Yes.
And what's depicted in that photograph?
It's the paper I gave Corey to go inside with.
Okay, so you're familiar with that paper because it was under your control and then you gave it to Corey.
Yes.
I'm now showing you what's been marked S34 for identification purposes. And do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that a photograph of?
Corey's underwear.
And is that the underwear that you put on Corey when you drove him to the defendant's house on April 2nd of 2021?
Yes.
And in regard to that photograph, is what's depicted in that photo the condition of the underwear that you sent Corey with that day in going to the home?
No.
And I'm now showing you what's been marked S33, and are you familiar with that?
Yes.
And what is that a photograph of?
Corey's underwear.
And again, is the underwear in the same condition as to when you sent Corey in that underwear to the defendant's home?
No.
I'm now showing you what's been marked S32 for identification purposes. And again, is that the underwear that you sent Corey in, a photo of that on April 2nd of 2021?
No.
That's not the underwear?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry.
Okay. And is the condition the same?
No.
Okay. And I'm now showing you what's marked S35 for identification purposes. And can you tell the jurors what that is?
It's Corey's underwear.
And again, you're familiar with that? And that's the underwear that you sent him in?
Yes.
And was that the condition it was when you sent him in that
No.
underwear? Your Honor, the state would ask for permission to publish and move into evidence the photos.
Your Honor, can I just see S22 and 23?
Sure. Ms. Lento, I'd like you to just put them in order so we can go through them in numerical order
Sure.
and we enter into evidence. And if you could show 22 and 23 to Mr. Gregor.
I'm giving it to you. She's giving it to you. 22? 23? Yes, 22.
I'm fine.
No objection?
No objection.
All right, so if I kept those numbers correct, it would be, let me know if I'm right, Ms. Lento, S19 through S24 and S32 through S35, is that right?
Yes, Judge.
All right, so
That is right.
S19 through and including S24 in evidence, S32 through and including S35 in evidence.
Yes.
Thank you.
Your Honor, at this point, we would ask for permission to publish the photos to the jury.
Grant.
Thank you. Okay, Brianna, so you're familiar with that location.
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors what that location is?
That's the defendant's home.
And the day that you dropped Corey off back to his father on April 2nd, can you show the jurors where you parked that day using the photograph of S19, which is now before the jury?
Yeah. It was all the way to the right, the second spot to the left.
We could go to the next picture. Okay, I'm now showing you S20, which has been published to the jury. And can you tell the jurors what that is a picture of?
That's the entrance of my home.
So when you came home with Corey around 1 something on April 2nd, is that where you and Corey entered the home?
Yes.
And what area in your home does that depict?
The entrance and the living rooms to the left, and my bedroom doors to the right after the hallway.
We can move to S21, please. Okay, now you can see S21, which has been published to the jury. And can you tell the jurors what is depicted in that photograph?
That's the stairs and the hallway to my bedroom.
S22, please. And can you tell the jurors what that is?
That's a TV stand in my bedroom.
Okay, and why is that TV stand there in your bedroom?
To hold the TV.
And is that where you would generally sleep downstairs?
Yes.
Okay. If we could then go to S23. And can you tell the jurors what that is a picture of?
My bedroom.
Okay. Now, the night that you brought Corey back to your home in Englishtown on April 2nd at 1 something in the morning, can you show the jury where you and Corey slept?
Yes, it was the bed on the left.
Next picture, please. I'm now showing you what's been marked S24, which has been published to the jury. And can you tell the jurors what that is a photograph of?
That's the paper the hospital gave me that I gave Corey to give to the defendant.
And I'm now showing you, if we could move to the next photo, S32. And can you tell the jurors what S32, the photograph, shows?
They're Corey's underwear.
Now, is that the underwear that you sent Corey in to his defendant's home on April 2nd of 2021?
Yes.
And if we could move to the next picture, please. I'm now showing you what's been marked S33. Is that the underwear that you sent Corey in to the defendant's home on April 2nd?
Yes.
Now, when you sent Corey in this underwear, was that the condition of the underwear?
No.
And what was the condition of the underwear when you sent Corey to the home?
They were clean.
And can we now go to S34? And again, is this a photo of the underwear that you dressed Corey in when you brought him to the defendant's home on April 2nd?
Yes.
And is that the condition of the underwear?
No.
S35. And again, the underwear on S35 as the photograph, was that the condition of the underwear that you sent Corey in when you brought him to the defendant's home?
No.
And what was the condition of the underwear that you sent?
They were clean.
S36? Oh, no S36, Judge.
All right, we didn't get to that yet.
Yep. You want to turn the flash drive?
This one is the voice recording, and this one is the gym.
Okay. The voice recording. I'm now going to show you what's been marked S15A for identification purposes. And do you recognize that?
Yes.
And what is that?
It's a flash drive.
And are you familiar as to what's contained on that flash drive?
Yes.
And have you previously viewed what has been contained upon that flash drive?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors what is contained in S15A?
It's a conversation between me and my son.
And when did this conversation occur?
On April 2nd.
And are you speaking to Corey in this conversation?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would ask to move S15A into evidence. and published to the jury.
S15A and A.
Oh, and also too, the transcript, yeah. If I may approach the transcript.
Yes, so ladies and gentlemen, S15A is the actual electronic exhibit you're going to see. S15B is a transcript of that exhibit. It's prepared by the prosecutor's office. The transcript is not evidence itself. Instead, it's an aid for you to follow along on what is allegedly said in the video. If you find the transcript is inaccurate and you believe you hear something else or something slightly different or something altogether different on the video, then your recollection, your judgment of what's on the video controls. It's merely an aid to follow along. And with that understanding, Sergeant Dugan's going to pass it out to you.
While she's passing it out, I'm now going to show you what's been marked S15B. And is that the transcript of the audio recording?
Yes.
And you reviewed this as well before you came to court today?
Yes.
And you want permission to publish to the jury?
Yes, granted.
Did he ask me? Well, he's your other parent, so it's his right. He needs to see it because you went to the doctor, and I just want to make sure he sees that. Okay?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it never fails that we have a technological problem. We did this outside your presence, and it worked fine. So there's actually some video portion of this, which Ms. Strome is going to try and... Looks like, is the TV off? I think that's the problem, right? Is the screen off? There we go.
I don't think the TV's off, but it's not showing my desktop because there's an icon on my desktop. It wasn't showing that PowerPoint was
Right.
open before, so something's not working with regard to the connection because everything's working on my computer. And this is not an exact copy of my computer right now.
Your Honor, I believe the IT guy is standing by in here. I'll go.
Please, yeah.
Yes, he is.
All right, I'm told he's on the way, sir. Thank you for your patience. Again, the video from earlier is not, we heard the audio, but not the video playing on the screen.
It's also just not an icon there. Do you want me to get up?
It's a short video. You want to just stay and make sure it works? It's only a couple seconds.
Your Honor, just permission to publish the video.
Go ahead, please.
You're up.
I don't have sound from the beginning, Judge, for some reason.
he wants the doctor, and I just want to make sure he sees that, okay? I'm not sure where he is. Yeah, he's inside. I don't know why the car's not here. That's strange.
Okay, Brianna. So, in regard to the video recording that you just saw and listened to, is that your voice depicted on the recording?
Yes.
And who is the other voice depicted on the recording?
My son Corey.
And obviously you're familiar with Corey's voice.
Yes.
And the conversation that you had with Corey on April 2nd of 2021, a little past 9 a.m. that morning, does that accurately depict the conversation that you had with him, what was shown in this video?
Yes.
Now, did you know that you were recording this conversation at the time?
No.
And how did it come to be that this conversation that you had with Corey was recorded?
Detective Dennis Mitchell from the prosecutor's office called me and asked me about it.
Okay. And Detective Mitchell had your cellular phone?
Yes.
Okay. And was this video recorded on your cellular phone?
Yes.
And did you purposely record this on your cellular phone?
No.
And how did it come to be that the recording existed from your cellular phone?
I must have accidentally took the video.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness?
Yes.
Yes, ABCD.
Yes.
Mario. Flash drive. Video. Jen.
Okay. I'm now showing you what has been marked S18 for identification purposes. And can you tell the jurors what S18 is?
It's a flash drive.
And are you familiar as to the contents which are contained on this flash drive?
Yes.
And did you review the contents of this flash drive before you came to court today?
Yes.
Now, contained within this flash drive is SA.
Mm-hmm.
And is SA a surveillance video from the Atlantic Heights apartment complex in Barnegat from March 20th of 2021?
Yes.
And you are familiar with that location as to what is contained on S18A.
Yes.
And you've been to that location before.
Yes.
And you're also familiar with who is depicted on that video, correct?
Yes.
And in regard to the A video, you are actually present on the video, correct?
Yes.
And you are familiar with the other parties as well.
Yes.
I'm now going to draw your attention to S18, what would be B, C, and D. And those are also surveillance videos from the Atlantic Heights apartment complex gym, correct?
Yes.
And you have reviewed those videos before you came to court today, correct?
Yes.
And you are familiar with the location which is depicted on B, C, and D.
Yes.
And you're also familiar with the parties who are located on those surveillance videos.
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would move into evidence. S18, A, B, C, and D of S18.
No objection.
S18, A, B, C, and D.
Thank you. And permission to publish, Your Honor, starting with A.
Yes.
Okay, Brianna. In regard to video A, there is a car located on that surveillance video.
Yes,
And whose car was that?
that's my car.
And there was also an adult male located on the surveillance video. And can you tell the jury who that was?
The defendant.
And there was also a child located on the surveillance video. Can you tell the jury who that is?
My son Corey.
Does that video accurately depict when you dropped Corey off to his father's apartment complex gym on March 20th, 2021 at approximately 4:15 p.m.?
Yes,
Now, there was a timestamp located on the video, correct?
correct.
And is that accurate within an approximate reasonable time?
Yes,
Permission to publish videos B, C, and D, Your Honor.
Grant.
Thank you.
Sorry, let's start at the beginning.
just going to move to the next video, which would be S18C for purposes of the record.
Very good.
Oh my God. That treadmill video, I have to blur it. That video was crazy. He picked the kid up by like his jacket. He like looked like he bit the kid on the head. I don't know what he was doing. He just kept putting him back on the treadmill, making him run. And the kid like would try to, I guess, jump onto the treadmill as it was moving. So he was falling, and then he just kept like helping him back up. And that video was horrific. I mean, maybe he was trying to toughen the kid up. I don't know if he was maybe letting his anger out through the kid. That could be abuse. I really don't know what I just saw. I just feel horrible for Corey. I really truly feel horrible for that kid.
Brianna, who is the child located in that video?
That's Corey.
And how old was Corey in that video?
He was 6.
And who was the adult male located in that video?
The defendant.
And again, you're familiar with that area?
Yes.
Now, when was the first time that you ever saw that video?
A few weeks ago.
And have you ever had possession of that video?
No.
Your Honor, there's no further questions for the witness at this time.
Thank you.
How are you, Miss Petrola?
I'm okay. How are you?
You need a second?
I'm okay.
Are you sure?
Yep.
So, when was Corey born?
May 1st, 2014.
And where did he live when he was born?
With me, Monroe Township.
Okay. And who lived in the house with you?
My family, my parents, my sister.
And how long did he live in Monroe Township?
A few months.
And did there come a time when you guys moved from Monroe Township
Yes, we moved to Florida.
to Florida? And how long were you in Florida?
A few years.
And who lived with you in Florida?
My parents and my sister.
Okay. So it was just the 4 of you and Corey.
I think my brother lived with us at the time too.
And then there came a time you moved back to Jersey, or did you move to Pennsylvania?
I was in New Jersey.
Okay. So you moved from New Jersey to Florida, from Florida back to New Jersey.
I did.
And when did you move back to New Jersey?
Maybe 2017.
And how old was Corey in 2017?
3 years old.
Then it comes a time when I believe it was either you or your mother make an application for child support from Christopher, am I right?
Around there.
Around the time you moved back from Florida to New Jersey?
Yes.
And was it you or your mother that made that application?
It was my mother.
And prior to that, how were you supporting Corey?
Through my parents.
And there came a time where they didn't want to support him anymore?
Objection. Hearsay.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
now.
Thank you.
So there came a time where your mother decided that she wanted to seek paternity of who this child is to get child support.
No.
So how did it come about?
I applied to get food stamps and health insurance and, assistance from the government, and they made us name the defendant as the father, and they ordered him to get a DNA test.
Okay. And then you got a DNA test, right?
Correct.
And then you moved at some point back to New Jersey.
I guess so.
So, did he come to Jersey?
He did.
Okay, so it's not a guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So he moved to New Jersey.
He did.
But when he moved to New Jersey, he not only paid child support, but he had custody along with you and your mother, am I right?
He had visitation in the beginning, yeah.
Okay. And the visitation would be at your house and at his parents' house, I guess, in Monroe?
Yeah. Yeah, Corey would go to his parents after school.
Okay. And things were fine, right?
I wouldn't say fine.
Okay.
No.
Tell me why.
I think it was maybe the first or second visit, Corey came home with a busted lip.
Okay.
Yes.
And you made a complaint about that,
I
didn't you?
did.
Okay. And it was investigated, am I
It
right?
was. Yep.
Okay. And when it was investigated, it was found out that Mr. Gregor
Objection, Judge, it's hearsay.
Was it investigated?
It was.
Okay, you found it?
No.
Objection, Judge.
Right, can we, I see Council Circle.
Sergeant, took the witness to the bathroom and one juror's in the bathroom.
Great, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, do you want a break for the lunch? No, the one juror left, so I know we had a late start, so that's why I didn't break. So, seeing no real response, you want to go in the jury room for a minute, or no, yes? All right. No? All right, well, we have to wait for the jury to come back out, so. Witness back on stand, the jury's in the box. Ladies and gentlemen, I sustain the state's objection. The incidents in this case, as you know, are two: March 20, 2021, April 2nd, 2021. Any prior incidents that were just discussed are totally hearsay, based upon things that were said by others outside of this courtroom. If it comes a point in time where those witnesses are called, I'll make a determination then whether it's admissible. Right now, none of what you just heard is admissible, so I guess you can strike it and disregard it. Again, if we reach a point where I'm going to allow anything else in other than those two dates, I'll let you know. I've allowed generally the background of the parties and who they are and how when the child was born, just to give you some background. But these specific instances or allegations you heard about were hearsay, therefore they're not admissible and you must disregard them. Thank you.
So there comes a point in March, I guess, of 220 or January of 220, where you're having an issue with drugs.
Yes.
You testified to that.
Yes.
And at that point, you lose custody of Corey.
Yes.
Am I right? And what was the drug you used?
Methamphetamine.
Methamphetamines?
Yes.
And what is a methamphetamine? I don't know.
It's a methamphetamine. I don't know how to, it's a drug.
Okay. And you lost custody of Corey in, I guess it was January of 2020 as a result of that addiction?
It's around there.
Okay. And did you go to rehab at that point?
I went to a drug program, yes.
Okay. And where was the drug program?
Stress care in Mattawan.
Okay. And how long was that program?
About 8 weeks.
8 weeks. And then in March, I believe it's your mother makes an application to start to get visitation of Corey, right?
I believe so.
Okay.
I don't recall.
But you still don't have custody or visitation rights at that point, am I right?
Correct.
And why was that?
Because of the drug test?
So did you fail the drug test after the rehab stint?
No.
So what was about the drug test that made you not able to take care of your child?
I just didn't apply for it yet, and to get custody back yet. I was still working on myself.
You were working on your sobriety?
Yes.
Okay. And when did you become sober?
Around the summer of that year.
The summer of 2020?
Yes.
So in the summer of 2020, you become sober, and up until the moment you're sitting here, you've been sober.
No, I have relapsed.
Okay. And when did you relapse?
Probably around December 2020.
December of what year?
2020.
I can't hear.
2020.
2020.
Yes.
So in December of 2020, you relapsed again. Was
Yes.
it the same drug, the methamphetamine?
It was.
And how do you take that? Is that like something called a bump? I've heard that term.
Yeah, you snort it.
Okay,
Yeah.
you snort it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say the word bump, that means you're snorting a methamphetamine.
I guess.
I don't know.
That's, yeah,
Is that how you ingest it?
yes.
So in January of 2020, you have a drug issue, you lose custody of Corey. In March of 2020, you still don't have custody of Corey. I believe it's in October, though, of 2020 that you're now allowed visitation.
I am, yes.
Okay. And in October of 2020, you then relapse in December of 2020.
Yes.
Does Christopher know that you relapsed in December of 2020? Did you tell him?
I don't believe I did.
Okay. And did you go back to rehab?
I did not.
Okay. Were you able to get over the addiction at that point?
No.
So you relapsed again?
Yes.
When did you relapse again?
I don't know. I have to think. Maybe February. I can't recall. It was on and off, like once or twice throughout.
February of 2021?
Yes.
And was that the last relapse?
Yes. Yes.
So from February of 2021 until you sit here today, you've been sober?
No.
Okay. So you relapsed again?
Okay. Yes, I did one time. Yes.
Okay. What was that?
Probably around the same time.
February of 2021.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So sometime between February of 2021 and as you sit here today, you're sober?
Yes.
So, do you know a person named Dustin Wondren?
I do.
Okay. And can you tell me who Dustin Wondren is?
He is my ex-boyfriend.
Your ex-boyfriend. Now, were you dating Dustin Wondren in April 2021?
Yes.
Okay. And by the way, do you have something called Facebook?
Yes.
And on Facebook, I believe there's something called Messenger. Am I right?
Okay. Yes.
And did you and Justin Wondren ever use Facebook Messenger to communicate with each other?
Yes.
Okay. And the day Corey died was what?
April 2nd.
Do you remember having a conversation with Justin Wondren on April 2nd?
Objection, Judge, it's hearsay.
Well, her statements would not be hearsay. So the existence of
Right.
a conversation doesn't convey any content yet, so that objection's overruled.
Thank you.
Do you remember having a conversation with Justin Wondren on April 2nd of 2021, beginning at 2:54 p.m.?
I don't remember it, but
Can I pause?
Please. Just identify that exhibit, please.
It's a Facebook,
No, just by numbering.
D4.
D4, thank you.
You want me to read it?
Well, I want you to tell me if you recognize the conversation.
Oh.
Is that you and Dustin?
Yeah.
So you recognize that conversation?
Yes.
Back for a second. Now, on 4/2/21, what time has you dropped Corey off at Christopher's house?
On April 2nd, you
Yeah,
said? Around 9 a.m.
9 a.m.?
Yes.
And then you went right home?
I believe so.
And at what time did Christopher ask you to send him the insurance card information?
Around 3:30.
Do you remember in this Facebook chat at about 3:49 p.m. asking a person named Justin Boydranda to bring me a bump?
Yes. I see it.
You remember that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the day Corey died.
It was.
Okay. That's the day that you don't know what's going on, right? You don't have any idea what's going on yet, right?
Correct.
All right. And you're asking Justin to bring you a methamphetamine.
Yes.
So, and you said that you relapsed in February.
Yes.
Is that true?
I actually, that day I didn't do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you wanted to do it.
I mean, yeah, I was very upset about my son being abused.
So you wanted a what is it?
Methamphetamine?
Methamphetamine. Do you recall on that same time, a little later in the afternoon, where you are saying, can I come over and buy one?
What time was this?
Wait.
4:03. Yeah. I do, yeah. This is the same text message then? Yeah.
And do you recall then going on and saying, I mean, I could get it by myself,
Yes.
I just don't want that much?
Yes.
Now, what does that mean, I don't want that much?
I wasn't like in active addiction, so I didn't need much. So that's what that means.
Explain to me what that means. I don't
Objection, Judge.
I
She
don't-
just answered the question.
Can you rephrase the question?
When you said I don't need that much to Justin Boydren, are you discussing with him the amount of methamphetamine that you wanted?
Yes.
Okay. So when you said I don't want that much, it's less than you normally take?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
What did you normally take?
More than that, I guess.
Well, what was that?
A bump?
A bump? One bump? Well, how big is a bump?
I don't know. Depends.
What does it depend on?
Whoever puts it out. I don't know what you're asking me, really.
I'm asking you what you were asking for.
Methamphetamine.
And how much?
A bump. I don't know how to explain it anybody else.
So on the day that you are complaining that your son was allegedly abused by Christopher, you're asking your boyfriend to bring you methamphetamine.
I did.
Okay. So now let's go to the events.
Yes.
420.
Okay.
When you dropped Corey off at the gym, Christopher had given you permission to take him to the party.
Yes.
Because it was an unscheduled
Visitation.
visitation.
Correct.
So it's not, it was my scheduled visitation. You requested of him on a day that's not yours,
Mm-hmm.
if
Yes.
you could take your son to a party in Pennsylvania. Am I right?
Yes.
And he agreed to that.
He did.
You said, sure, take him to the party.
Yeah.
And then, did you agree on a time you were supposed to bring him home?
Yes.
Okay? And did you take him home that time?
No.
You took him home late.
I was late.
You were late.
Yes.
And he was upset.
Yes.
So then you guys had an argument, right?
Yeah. Over text. Yeah.
Okay, over text. And we saw some of those texts. And we'll get into some of those texts in a little while.
Yeah.
So now there comes a time where after April 20th, that you have visitation again.
April 20th or
After
March 20th?
March 20th.
Yeah. Yes,
You have visitation again,
I did.
right?
Hmm.
And your visitation was usually when, on a Thursday?
I think so. Yeah.
Well, that wasn't bad. So was it?
I think it was Wednesdays, honestly.
Wednesday? Okay.
Yeah.
So how often would you get him during the week?
It depended on his mood,
On whose mood?
the defendant's.
So the court didn't tell you what days you had? If
Well, yes.
Christopher
So
made the
there was a
determination?
court order. Yes.
Okay,
That said,
so-
so it was Wednesday and then every other weekend.
So then it wasn't up to his mood, it was up to a court order, am I right?
You're right.
All right, I'm right.
Yes.
So when you just said it was up to the defendant,
For any extra days, it would be up to him.
well, did the court say that?
No.
Oh, so he would give you extra days if you asked him,
Yes.
and he gave
If
it to
he
you.
was in the mood to give me them, yes.
And he gave it to you.
Sometimes.
Okay, but the court order said Wednesday,
Yes.
and he gave it to you every Wednesday,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And sometimes when you ask, like on Halloween, right? Didn't he ask you once on Halloween? You asked if you could have Corey for Halloween, so he could go trick-or-treating,
Oh, yes. I remember that.
and he said yes.
Yes.
Okay? But every Wednesday was court order, right?
I believe that's the day. I think so. Not 100%
But you
sure.
had him, how many days a week were you allowed to visit with him?
On Wednesdays and then every other weekend.
Okay. So every Wednesday you would see him, and then every other weekend you would
Yes.
see him. So the weekend that you took him on the 20th to the party that wasn't your weekend.
No.
The following weekend was though,
Yes.
and you took him that weekend.
I did.
Okay. So between April 20th and I guess it would be the 27th,
Right, what you say, April?
March, I'm
March.
sorry, thank you, Judge. March 27th would be, the 25th would probably be the beginning of that weekend, right?
I think it was the 28th. 27th was that Saturday, yes.
And wasn't that Saturday the day he had to do the flag football?
Yes.
Now, didn't he stay at Christopher's house that night?
Friday night, yes.
Friday night.
Yes.
It was your weekend though, right?
Yes.
Where did you stay that night?
At my house.
You stayed at your house?
Yes.
Do you recall that Christopher asked you if he could have Corey?
Objection, hearsay.
Why did you leave Corey there Friday night?
Chris wouldn't let me pick him up.
Okay. Did he get to the practice on time? Oh,
Yes.
by the way, did you agree to that? It was your weekend.
No, he wouldn't let Corey go with me
To home?
to my house. He wouldn't let me pick him up.
Did you do anything about that?
We met at the police station. He wouldn't let Corey out of the car.
And the police department said that was okay?
Yes,
Yes?
they did.
Hearsay with the police department.
Well,
Okay. But the police are like, you would meet at the police station to exchange Corey?
only when he was in a bad mood.
When Corey was in a bad mood?
Christopher.
All right. So you would meet on Wednesdays at the police station if Christopher was in a bad mood?
And yes,
But if he wasn't in a bad mood, you would meet at his house?
yes,
And if he was in a really good mood, you would actually sleep over at his house?
yes.
And how often did you do that?
It depended. Sometimes a few times a week, sometimes once. Sometimes just the weekend, sometimes the weekdays.
And how long did that go on?
About 4 months, maybe 3 months.
And was that in 2021?
Yes,
So if March 20th was the treadmill,
March 20th.
so we're saying from like January to the beginning of March, you were sleeping over his house during this time?
Maybe early December.
Did you guys discuss actually getting a house together?
We did.
Did you actually look at houses together?
We did not.
So up until this point in March of 2021, you still only had visitation rights,
Yes.
no custody.
I had half legal custody and every other weekend, yeah.
Okay, so half legal custody meaning you had them on Wednesdays and every other week,
Yes.
but you didn't have full parental custody.
No,
And why was that?
because I was working towards getting more custody.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you do that?
What do you mean?
How did you do that? What was the work you did? Tell me the work you did.
I got clean, and I was trying to go back to court and ask the judge for more time with Corey.
And that's just around the time that you had made an emergent order.
Yes.
You requested an emergent order
Correct.
to get custody of Corey and have it taken away from Kristen.
Temporarily.
Temporarily.
Yes.
Right? Because you saw bruises on Corey.
Yes.
And you immediately made an emergent application. By the way, weren't you at the football practice?
I was. Yes.
So now you see the bruises on Corey, you make an emergent application, and that's denied.
It is.
And as a result of it being denied, you then get an order from the court that tells you and Christopher that together you should make an appointment with the pediatrician through DCP&P.
Correct.
You didn't do that, though.
Yes, I did.
No.
I took him to the pediatrician.
You did.
Yes.
You didn't do it together with him, as the court order had stated.
No.
Okay?
He
You
did what he
decided
wrote.
on your own. Did you decide on your own
Yes.
you were going to take him?
Yes.
You violated the court order.
I mean, I don't think it said he had to be present during that. It just said that he needed to go to a pediatrician. So.
I can argue about that all day. So now, you take him to the pediatrician.
I did.
Take him to Ivy Pediatrician.
Yes.
And at Ivy, they tell you that, these are some bumps and bruises, suspicious of child abuse.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yes.
And at this point, you don't know anything about the treadmill that we just saw.
No.
And they recommend to you that you take him to Jersey Shore Medical Center at that point.
Yes. Well, community medical center first.
Well, I think they said Jersey Shore Medical
Objection, Judge, it's hearsay.
Center.
They said, well, like,
Right, so it's hearsay, but in terms of how she reacts to that, I'm gonna allow it, not for the truth of the matter, but for where you took the child.
okay, thank you, Judge.
Yeah.
So you took the child to,
Community medical center.
and when you got to Community Medical Center, they also did an evaluation,
They did.
and they said, and you then, as a result of that, took him to Jersey Shore Medical Center.
Because there is a child abuse pediatrician there.
Okay. So there was no child abuse pediatrician at the other two hospitals?
Not that worked with DCP&P.
So when you got to Jersey Shore Medical Center, that's when they told you, you should leave him here overnight.
No.
No, they never told you that? You never signed a piece of paper saying that you were leaving against their medical advice?
At community medical center, I did. Because they wanted to transport him in an ambulance, and I said I was going to drive him. They didn't tell me why, but yes, I signed that.
Okay, so you signed it out.
Yes.
Okay. So now you take him to one hospital, one doctor,
Yes.
take him to one community hospital center, and then you take him to a hospital, and you're doing this all because you think he's being abused, right? And then...
And it was under the advice of a DCP&P worker.
Okay. And then you take him, you try to bring him back to his house that night, right?
Yes.
And you're unable to do that,
Correct.
right? Instead, you take him home,
Yes.
you go to sleep with him,
Yes.
you wake up the next morning, and you bring him back to the person that you say is abusing him.
Correct.
Did you contact DCP&P at that point?
No. Not that morning.
No. That morning, you actually decided to sit down with Dustin Vondran and try to get methamphetamine.
Objection, Judge, it's not accurate.
I think the time frame is wrong, Mr. Galucci.
I know. It's later in the afternoon that you decided that you were going to get,
Yes.
what is it called?
Methamphetamine.
Methamphetamines. So you believe your child is being abused. You take him to 3 different hospitals. You make an application to DCP&P. You don't have custody of your child at this point because you're not allowed to have custody of your child.
Objection,
and you decide.
Judge. That's
So it's getting argumentative.
I
You
mean,
have to ask
And
questions.
you
Elicit
decide.
answers.
And you decide. I'm going to try to get methamphetamine.
Yes.
And you actually negotiate with him.
Who?
Justin. Whoever.
Dustin?
Dustin.
I did, yes.
Negotiate.
I never said I was I was weak-minded when it came to that, yes. And I was going through a stressful time. Not the best, yeah.
Ms. Schron, Ms. Lento, I'm sorry, on her direct examination, gave you a series of text messages between you and Chris that occurred on April 1st of 2021.
Yes.
They are S. Is this 5?
I know there's a lot of them. I don't know which one to refer to. Which one do you want? Which one do you want? Which one do you want? S9. There's 6.
These marked as people's S1. It's picture court.
Yes, it is.
Right? This was taken in a park in Barnegat, am I right?
I don't believe it was Barnegat.
You
It
don't
was
believe
nearby, though, yes.
All right.
Yes.
Besides Corey, who else was there with you?
That was just Corey and I.
Just the two of you?
Yes.
Christopher wasn't there that day?
No, he was not.
It was snowing out that day.
It was. It was December.
I don't know which ones you want. When we're here, all of them. We can look through and figure out which ones you want.
Take a record in just a second.
Sure.
So it's S5, S7, and probably S8. You remember that Ms. Lento had showed you these exhibits?
I had to look at them. They're just text messages.
Remember
Okay.
you saw those? Now,
Yes.
do you recall if that was the entirety of the text exchange between you and Christopher?
I don't remember. I don't know.
So, what am I up to?
You said before, but that was actually.
Let me show you D5. You recognize it?
Yes.
That's not just a snippet, am I right? That's the whole entire text exchange.
Judge, we interrupt? Can the state see the exhibit? I've never seen the exhibit before, and you didn't show it when we walked up. Can we see
Judge,
it?
I'm sorry, I assumed that since they had snippets from that exhibit, that they had seen it.
Why?
Well, but there's a lot of exhibits, I'm sure, so as a courtesy, you could show that. to
Thank you.
Lento, so she knows what you're showing the witness.
Just so we can follow along.
Just for where nobody moved S5
I want to see where you're
or 7 into evidence. 8 and 11 were moved into evidence.
Yes, Judge. We're going to move them, but we just want to see if we could have a minute.
4/1, 10:39 a.m.
Here you go. It's okay, you're, no.
Can I push? Yes. So once again, D4 is the whole entire conversation between you and Christopher on that day, am I right?
Yes.
Okay. By the way, on that day, you just testified that if Christopher was in a good mood, you would drop him off at the house. If he was in a bad mood, you had to drop him off at the police station.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
On April 1st, he must have been in a good mood because you dropped him off at the house. You saw the
I
video
don't-
of that.
That was on April 2nd?
Yeah.
Yes. He must have been.
All right. So he was in a good mood because you dropped him off at the house.
I guess so.
Okay. Oh, by the way, how many videos do you accidentally have in your, well, not in police possession, but in your possession where it just randomly takes a video of a conversation you have with Corey?
That was the first time.
That's the first time.
Yes.
So the first time you ever record Corey is after you've taken him to 3 different hospitals, right? Or medical centers,
Yes.
right? You made a emergency order request, right?
Yes.
You drove him back to the guy that you're blaming is having all these issues,
Yes.
right? So let's go to this text
The
exchange.
text.
Call exchange. So this is an exchange between you and Christopher, am I right?
Yes.
That starts on April 1st of 2021 at about 10:39.
Yes.
Okay? This is the owner. That would be you.
Yes.
First question, am I picking Corey up from your place at 4:30? Right?
Yes.
Then you responded with question marks, because I guess you got no response.
Correct.
Okay? Then he says, police station, I don't feel safe, you coming near my home. Right?
Yes.
You say, sure, sounds good. You, where are you? I'll be past 7:30, and I will take over and be with my son.
That was Christopher.
Right?
Yes.
Then Christopher again. I have no idea where you are. You will not tell me on the phone. Why is that? You're past your time by the court order, and I want to be there for my son.
Correct. Yeah.
That's actually in evidence. I'm driving to Jersey Shore Medical Center. I'm doing what a caseworker for DCP told me to do. Right?
Correct.
And Chris, where are you? Right?
Correct.
Caseworker said you have up to 7 days to do this, and you choose to do it now and exceed your time, which will be subtracted from your next visit. That's Christopher to you, right?
Correct.
Christopher again to you. Feel free to bring him to the police station of Barnegat whenever you're done, and however long you go over 7:30 is the amount of time that will be subtracted from your next visit.
Correct.
Bad mood, right?
I'm sorry.
That's bad mood?
Yeah.
Then you. The doctor sent me to the hospital. Then Mark, I'm assuming Mark is caseworker, called me and said not only to stay there, sent me to DCP doctor at the hospital. Right? That's what you said?
Correct.
Then you said, when's my next visit that you will allow? You to Chris, right?
Yes.
Chris, just let me know when you guys will be arriving down here and I will come pick my son up, right?
Correct.
And you, I absolutely will.
Correct.
Chris, I will follow the court order. Unlike you, I also won't file an immersion application, is what he said.
Yeah.
for the reason just to spite you. But if Corey doesn't want to go because your mother will be there, that is his choice. You responded, yeah, right?
Correct.
Sorry, he said that it is arguing between your mother and Richie as well as your sister, who was also present during the visit. You responded, sure he did. So was there arguing going on in your house?
No. No.
Then, Chris, to you, just drawing it out there, that we both know that it is against the order, especially when your sister...
Objection, Judge.
Based on what?
It's based upon relevance. We're really going outside of the scope of what was proffered. And
Go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
no, that's it, Judge. We're going outside the scope of what's proffered, and we did not have the opportunity to go through these messages to see what appropriate redactions would have been made or not made. At this point now, we're just using this really as a way to just get all this hearsay into the courtroom.
Judge, they gave me... This is from them.
I understand that, yeah.
So, the statements between the parties made out of court are hearsay, but this defendant's here testifying to them. In the interest of completeness, if there's text messages before and after the text messages the state has introduced, my understanding is this is on April 1st into April 2nd. In all fairness, I should allow the entirety of those text messages. If I find the need to make any redactions, then I'll advise you that before they're given to you, and you shouldn't, if there are any redactions made, you shouldn't speculate as to what the content of the material that was redacted nor the reason for the redactions. But right now, the cross-examination is appropriate in the interest of completeness of the conversation between the parties, generally for the reasons I gave you in my prior instruction, that the addition or subtraction of certain words or statements can change the context of a particular statement when viewed in isolation.
Thank you.
So back to this.
Yes.
So Chris, to you, it's 4/1, 7:33 p.m. Just throwing it out there that we both know it and it's against the order, especially when your sister just got out of jail for drugs. Your response, Chris's response, they present during his visits, or is he making that up? Your response, I'm not in the mood for this. Right?
Correct.
That happened, right?
Yes.
Oh, but I thought that was the reason why you also wanted to have your visit at my place, because of the toxic environment your family creates. That's first to you, right?
Yes.
I'm not under investigation right now. You are. I'll drop him off when he's done. His response, and now you're spreading the toxicity to our son, trying to convince him that football is bad and those bruises are horrible because he has to be me abusing him, and he knows your allegations and knows why the police have come to the house. Chris, again.
We have to ask her to say that. That's the content of the message.
Right.
Is it being read correctly now?
Yes.
Chris, again, keep spreading toxicity, keep letting him know that it's more important for you to spite me than love him, that is a very healthy mother and son relationship. We wouldn't be here if nobody agreed with me. Chris, I'm under investigation from your ludicrous claim that it had any shred of evidence when you applied for your emergent order, it would have been granted. Keep pulling at strings and separating us further. Thank you for providing, not making a fatal mistake of allowing you to live in the same house with us, because you're a horrible person and you will never have that opportunity ever again offered to you. Chris, to you, right?
Yes.
Try to coach, Chris, to you again. Try to coach them up and see what you need to him as much as you can, but also knows the value of honesty and the truth. Right?
Correct.
You. That's why they wanted me to take him to the pediatrician. I'm not fighting you. I'm not fighting with you. I'm doing what a caseworker and a supervisor told me to do. Right?
Correct.
Okay. They requested me, Chris, they requested me at noon, and I said that I would take him next week and not tomorrow at noon because I couldn't get off work. I was informed that we had up to 7 days to go, which they obviously informed you, and you still made the reckless decision to go over your visitation hours and not even inform me. Very immature. Stop texting me unless it is to give me an ETA to the police station for the drop-off. Right?
Correct.
He called me and asked me to speak to the doctor here, then the doctor told me to go to the other hospital, right?
Correct.
Chris, what was your excuse for not informing me and having me call you at 7:25, 5 minutes before your visit is supposed to end? Get it together seriously and stop being spiteful. Text me your ETA when you have it. The time past 7:30. We'll be taking off your next visit. You can fight it if you want. That's the way it's going to go. To be, I will not stand for you exceedingly late with zero communication. Right?
Correct.
When we be there, by the way, the court order that you went today and received afterwards says you had 7 days, and it didn't have to be done today. You call DCP and talk to them about it. I'm at the hospital. More to come later.
I said you're more than welcome to come.
That's the complete text exchange,
It looks like it.
not the step.
No.
So, after Corey passed, did you, your mother, and 2 other people have occasion to go to Christopher's parents' home?
Have a what? I'm sorry.
Go to Christopher's parents' home,
We did.
okay? And when you went there, did you, your mother, and others throw several objects at that house?
My mother was not involved. It was me and 2 friends, and yes, we did.
And at that time, you threw eggs,
Yes.
dead goldfish.
I don't think they were goldfish. It was fish from the supermarket.
So let me understand this. You woke up on this day, you decided you were going to drive to his parents' house, but before you did that, you actually put the thought in to go to a supermarket and buy fish.
Yes.
And you drove to his house, and you threw the fish. Were they dead? Or did you get fresh fish?
It was fresh. It wasn't fresh. It was
Well,
food.
did you get it from a market that had one of those tanks?
No, it was no.
What
It
kind
was
of
a dead fish.
What kind of fish?
I don't remember.
Was it expensive fish?
Not really.
All right. So you got cheap fish.
Yeah.
So you got this fish, meat bones. What's a meat bone?
I don't remember that.
And goose eggs. Goose egg stones.
Oh, stones. Okay.
What is a goose egg stone?
I don't know.
Just
It sounds like a stone, but
so you throw rocks. So you threw rocks, dead fish, bones, and eggs at Christopher's parents' house?
yes.
By the way, did you ever set up a GoFundMe page when Corey passed?
I didn't do it directly myself. No.
Was a GoFundMe page set up?
Yes.
By who? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I can't remember that.
Was it set up on a website or a Facebook group called Justice for Corey?
No.
Do you know what Justice for Corey is?
I do.
Okay, and who set that up?
That was me.
You set that up. And in the Justice for Corey site, was it posted that you had a GoFundMe?
It could have been.
Well, you're the administrator, aren't
I
you?
am. It's been a few years.
Okay.
There's a lot of posts in that group.
Okay, well, you're the administrator.
Yes. There's other ones too. Yeah.
Okay. How many administrators are there?
There's 2 others.
2 others.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm assuming the administrator, I'm not a Facebook group guy, but I'm assuming that, and you tell me, maybe I'm wrong, but a Facebook group administrator gets notices when things are posted on the page.
Yes.
Okay. So you're the administrator.
I was.
So you
Yes.
got notice?
I am.
Are you telling me you didn't know that on the Facebook for Corey webpage, there's postings up there for a Justice for Corey Cash App and GoFundMe?
Possibly, but there are a lot of posts that went up. The group was very popular.
Did
A
you
lot
earn
of
any money from the GoFundMe page that was set up?
Did I what?
Earn any money from that GoFundMe page?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
How much money did you earn from the GoFundMe page that was set up that you say you know nothing about?
I knew it was set up. I'm not the one that set it up, and I don't recall who set it up.
But you profited.
I did. Yes.
All right. So how much was...
I don't recall.
So do you recall how much the GoFundMe was for?
No.
Are you also aware that in addition to the GoFundMe that you made money off of, they also started a Cash App campaign?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
Just if I can have a minute. May I approach?
Yes.
Ms. Petrola, let me show you something. This is Defense Exhibit D6.
Yes.
Do you recognize that?
I see it. Yep. I recognize it.
And that is a request for people to donate you money on Cash App so you could attend court hearings.
Correct.
So, and the reason they set up the Cash App, am I right, is because when you set up a GoFundMe page, they take too much of the profit.
She said that, yes.
Okay, so you agree with that?
I don't agree with it. That's what she wrote.
But you got money from that.
Objection, Judge.
I did. Yes, I said
What
that.
somebody else said is hearsay. Question
Yeah,
is-
I didn't post this, so I don't.
But you got money from it.
I said yes.
Okay, you got money from Cash App and you got money from GoFundMe.
Yes. Can I tell you what that was used for? Or you don't want to know?
Well, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Okay.
How's that?
Wow, what an explosive first day. We learned a lot through that defensive cross, and we also learned a lot on the emotional side and a lot on what she was doing to provide for Corey and what she was doing to try to get him to be better and to, you know, fight for his life. We also saw Chris Gregor do some crazy stuff with the treadmill. But we also saw how him and his family were very giving and they loved Brianna. They tried to embrace her, but maybe things happened. They fell out. We learned that Brianna was on drugs. She was on hard drugs, not even like, you know, subtle drugs like marijuana or any other drug. She was doing the crazy stuff, and it seemed like it got out of control. But she was helped by the Gregor family, sent to rehab. So it is a very sticky situation. Brianna was also arrested. That's gonna sway a lot of people too. She was attacking them. I mean, maybe some people could say that it was out of love for Corey, or maybe she was projecting. Who knows? Some people may say that she shouldn't have taken Corey out of the hospital against medical advice, even though she just wanted to drive him over. And some people will say that it's obvious that Chris must have done something to the kid. So let's see what happens in day 2. We're going to be back tomorrow. So I hope you guys come back to the BippyMan channel. BippyMan, I'm out. Bippy!
Bet your sweet Bippy I did.